So one thing that we want to start off with is let's talk about how the Netherlands has a relationship with Google. Now, some people may already know that in Holland or the Netherlands, they have a lot of bicycles. And some people may also believe that Google has actually lended help to the Netherlands by creating its own self-driving bike. Now, I know some of you guys may have heard this and you may go, oh my god, that's amazing. The truth is that is actually not true. The whole video was made as a April's Fool joke. So unfortunately, there are no self-driving bikes within Holland unless somebody has made them themselves, but it's not a Google thing. Now, in our last video, some of you guys were talking about in the comments section about how it's rainy all the time in the Netherlands. And for this country, the best time to go for tourists is what they usually call in season, which usually happens from April to mid-October. And although some people feel that it rains all the time within the Netherlands, that is different from region to region. Because overall, there's actually really no rainy season for the country, but however, it is known to have a maritime climate, with February being their coolest month. And their average mean temperature in February is approximately 3.3 Celsius, with July being hottest with a temperature of 17.9 degrees Celsius. And overall, when it comes to rain, they get approximately 832.5 millimeters of precipitation. Now, one thing that was cool when I read back into the comments section, I did notice that somebody did mention that the King of the Netherlands actually flies for KLM. Because in our last video, we did mention how KLM is the oldest flight company in the world and is originally from Holland. But as for King William Alexander, he actually admitted to the Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf that he had been secretly flying for KLM for 21 years. And although he has flown smaller aircrafts for the company, he did state that he was planning to retrain for the new bigger aircraft that the company now provides. Which I think is actually awesome that a king actually does real work. I mean, like, you hear of other kings and princes and stuff like that doing military service, but this is not military service. This is just like, you know, every average day sort of job sort of thing, and I think that's amazing. Now, of course, in our last video, guys, some of you out there were like, oh god, Dave Walpole, you are the worst at pronouncing some of our words. And you know what, I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm Canadian. Some of you guys actually said, yo, not bad for a Canuck or an American, that's actually pretty good. So if I pronounce anything wrong, yo, just give me a break, okay? And with that in mind, in our last video, I did mention that Friesland was the largest province in the country. Now, from what I've heard, it's actually not pronounced Friesland like French fries, it's more like Friesland, like, you know, it's frozen. It's not actually frozen, but it's like Friesland. I just didn't know that. And when it comes to this particular province and this particular fact, we did mention how Friesland is the largest province by land size. And unfortunately, that is not actually true, depending on how you look at it. Because Friesland, if you go by border size, it is the largest province within the Netherlands. But if you were to exclude all the water, Gelderland comes in as the largest landmass, being approximately 4,972 kilometers square. And considering we're talking about provinces, we should also mention the smallest province by population, and that is Zeeland. Now, currently it has a population estimate of 380,600 people, and although it is a very small place when it comes to its population, it has a very similar sound to many outsiders, because the island of New Zealand is actually named after the province of Zeeland. And although it is spelled differently, believe it or not, New Zealand got its name after this small populated province due to the Dutch explorer Abel Janszoon Tasman, who discovered New Zealand on his first Pacific voyage after spotting the shores of New Zealand on December 13th, 1642. Now, in our last video, you also noticed there was an image we used of a lot of tall ships going down a river. Now, this is actually a festival called Sail to Amsterdam, where old tall ships come from all around the world to take part in. And as a matter of fact, they've had ships come from all different places of the world, such as places like America, Chile, Colombia, etc. But what makes this festival unique from other tall ship festivals from around the world is its origins. Because it all started in 1975 to celebrate Amsterdam's 700th birthday. And it is actually a very rare thing to see because it only happens once every 5 years. Take that, the Olympics. And speaking about the Olympics, well, we cannot forget about talking about the Olympics when we think of the Netherlands because, well, one thing for sure, they've won a lot of medals. Now, for the Netherlands, they've contributed to almost every single Olympics since they began in 1990. Now, for some in the country, they know that the Netherlands has only hosted the Olympics once in 1928. However, it should be noted that the sailing event in the 1920 Games was actually held in Amsterdam. And although they may not be hosts all the time, they are actually indeed winners, because the Netherlands has provided some of the best athletes in the world and has gained the country a total of 130 gold medals, 136 silver medals, and 149 bronze medals, bringing a total of 415 Olympic medals for the country. And keep in mind, guys, that update is just from this year of recording, which is 2018. As well, when it comes to their sports, the athletes of the Netherlands are known greatly for speed skating, cycling, and swimming. And to date, the Netherlands ranks 4th in the world when it comes to cycling, with a total of 49 medals and 18 of them being gold. And as for swimming, they ranked 6th with a total of 59 medals and 22 being gold. But overall, the sport they are feared for the most by other countries is speed skating, as they rank number 1 in the entire world. And not only do they have the most gold medals coming in at 42, they also have the most medals, equaling 121. And one thing that we definitely have to talk about that we missed in our last video was the imports and exports of this great nation. Now, currently, it sits at 9th in the world when it comes to exports, exporting a total of $435 billion in goods, with refined petroleum being 7.9%, cars being 3.3% of that, and telephones being 3.1% of all of its exports. Now, as for imports, they sit at approximately 10th, importing $393 billion, with refined petroleum being 5.9%, crude petroleum being approximately 5.4% of that, and computers being 3.4%. But one thing that is truly amazing about its imports is the fact that the Netherlands is the #1 exporter of tulips and cut flowers. Yeah, that's right. Although cut flowers and tulips make up only 0.95% of their exports according to a 2016 status, that same year they actually supplied the world with 56% of the cut flowers around the world. And in total in 2016, their tulip and cut flower exports equaled $4.16 billion, with Germany providing about 30% of that, the UK providing 15%, and France 13%, and other countries around the world. So there you have it, guys. That is us looking at the Netherlands once again. And of course, it's amazing to learn so much about a great nation that boasts happiness and peace. And on top of that, guys, I have to say that there's a lot more about this country that we have shown here. And if you guys notice that we missed some facts, be sure to put it down there in the comment section below. And like I said, if this video gets more than 1,000 likes, well, then guess what? We're going to have to do part 3 because that's the way it rolls here on FTD Facts. So we do what you guys want to do. On top of that, guys, my name is Dave Walpole, and you guys can always leave a suggestion down there in the comment section below for a future FTD Facts video on any topic that you guys would like. We generally stick to countries, but let us know what you guys want us to talk about. And of course, at the end of this video, be sure to check out our other content that we have, because it might be surprising of how much the stuff that you might want to learn about. But either way, this is us returning and looking a little deeper into the amazing nation of the Netherlands. From its people living healthy lives by biking or walking across the peaceful lands to take in the fresh air, this is the people, culture, and country of Holland, or the Netherlands, where one may always find home. The first thing that we gotta mention is a lot of people call the Netherlands Holland. But that's not actually the real name. Holland actually refers to 2 provinces within the country, which are also some of the biggest provinces, and that is North and South Holland. However, for some people within the Netherlands, if you were to actually say, hey, yo, you're from Holland, some people might actually get offended by that because it's really not a correct term. But as for the term Holland, where it came from, scientists actually think that it actually happened after 1813, when Holland was removed from France and restored to the Netherlands. Now, one thing when it comes to the Netherlands, it actually does have a meaning, and it means the lower country. Now, that doesn't mean it's a lower country as in the people within the country are treated lower than other people around the world. No, it just literally means it's like on a height difference, it is a lower country because, first of all, it's flat and a good chunk of it is actually underwater. And one thing that makes the terrain of Holland really quite popular is that because it's flat, it is known all around the world for cycling and walking. And if we were to talk about land size, we should probably talk about the fact that it is a size of 41,543 kilometers square. And when I did say a lot of it actually has to do with water, well, about 18.41% of it is actually water. And when it comes to all this water, believe it or not, only 50% of its land is over 1 meter above the water level. Now let's dive a little deeper into the flatness of the Netherlands and its water level. Now, you might have heard back in World War II during Operation Market Garden when the American paratroopers tried to land in Holland that the Germans flooded the areas and the fields. Well, now this wasn't the fact that the Germans were like just going around with buckets of water and just throwing them all over the land hoping to, flood the whole region. No. This is because what the Germans had done is they simply removed the dikes that prevented water from reaching the lands. Now, these are actually called polders, which are quite common in the Netherlands, where they build up small areas called a dike to prevent water from coming in and flooding the lands for agriculture. And the crazy part is this has been happening since the 16th century, and some of these dikes are really old. Now, one thing that's also tied to this is windmills. Now, you might think that windmills within the Netherlands, they're used for agricultural purposes. Well, most of them are, but actually some of them are used for a much different reason. This is because of the official 991 windmills within the country, about 397 of them are used for draining purposes. Now keep in mind, guys, that is an official estimated number because they say there's easily over 1,000 windmills, and a lot of them date back to over 1850 when they were first built. So now that we've got water and all of that out of the way, let's dive into the population. Now, the Netherlands has a population of approximately 17,170,000 people, ranking 66th in the world. And surprisingly, this country is actually quite packed out of most countries in the world, because it has a population density reaching 414.1 people per square kilometer. And actually, if you don't include the water levels, it equals over 507 people per kilometer square. And because of that, its population density ranks 30th in the world, and it is so populated that only countries like Bangladesh and South Korea and Taiwan have bigger populations with a higher density. And of this population, let's take a look at the biggest regions within the country and, of course, the capitals and cities. First of all, Amsterdam is the capital of the country, and it is filled with over 200 different diverse nationalities in the city, making it one of the most diverse capitals in the world, let alone Europe. On top of that, it has a population of 821,000 people, with Rotterdam coming in second at 623,000, and The Hague coming in at over 514,000 people. Which I'm not gonna lie, I've never heard of a big city with the word "the" before. That seems to be pretty much original for me. Maybe not, but if you guys know other cities that start with the word "the," let me know down there. However, when it comes to populations by provinces, South Holland comes in number 1, having over 3.6 million people, followed by North Holland with 2.7, North Brabant with 2.4, and Gelderland with roughly over 2 million people. And although North Holland and South Holland may have the most people, Friesland is the largest province with 5,748.75 kilometers square, Gelderland coming in second at 5,136.19 kilometers square, and North Brabant coming in at 5,081.77 kilometers square. Okay, so we got the basics out. Let's talk about some cool, unique facts about the Netherlands that some other countries do not have. Now, did you know that Dutch is not the only official language of the country? They actually have more than 2. Because when we were talking about the province of Friesland, it also has its own official language, known as Frisian, as well as there's other languages such as English and Papiamento. Now, Papiamento might sound Latin, but it actually has Portuguese roots. And the reason for this is because the Netherlands also owns islands in the Caribbean, such as Bonaire, Sint Eustatius, and Saba. And you may wonder why I didn't mention places like Curaçao and St. Martin, because they both have huge Dutch influences there as well. This is because the islands of St. Martin, Curaçao, and even Aruba are listed as autonomous countries of the Netherlands, basically meaning they have freedom from an external authority. And as for St. Martin and Curaçao, they were granted this in 2010, whereas Aruba was the first island to be granted this from the Netherlands in 1986. Now, you may have also flown or at least heard of KLM flights, and not only is it a Dutch company, but it is also one of the oldest continuous flight companies still in operation today. The Royal Dutch Airlines was founded in 1919 when a young aviator named Albert Plesman put on a flight exhibit, and it gained interest and investors to form a company. And this company actually became Royal Decree because back in the day, Queen Wilhelmina made the company a royal predicate. And as for its first flight, it took off on May 17, 1920, with its first international flight happening only 4 years later on October 1st of 1924. And on top of that, you may not know that the Netherlands is one amazing country when it comes to protecting its culture and, most importantly, its nature. The country currently has over 20 national parks, with the largest being the Oosterschelde National Park with over 370 square kilometers and a shoreline running the length of 125 kilometers. And what's really popular about this place is it's a very common place to see seals. However, forgetting its national parks, the country is also home to 10 UNESCO zones and the world's largest flower garden. And that is Keukenhof, which is known as the Garden of Europe. Located in Lees, Netherlands, every year across its 32 hectares, there are easily 7 million flowers planted, with over 1.4 million people visiting the grounds as of 2017.
The Netherlands is also commonly called Holland. So if you hear Holland or the Netherlands, it's not two different places, it's the same exact country. Now, there's one thing to clarify. The people, the language, as well as the culture of the Netherlands are referred to as Dutch. Why are there so many different words and names for the Netherlands? We'll get to that in another episode. The Netherlands was once a great naval power, and this nation, it boasts a lot of wealth as well as cultural heritage, and it's famous for its painters as well as its windmills and notoriously flat lands. The Netherlands today is a very modern European country, and it has preserved its highly international character as it's known for its very liberal culture. At the time of filming this episode, the population of the Netherlands is 17,092,548. And that puts Netherlands at the 68th spot in terms of ranking in the list of countries by population. Its population density is 507 people per square kilometers, and the total land area of the Netherlands is 33,720 square kilometers. Also, the capital city of the Netherlands is Amsterdam, which is a very popular tourist destination. Okay, so that's a little bit about the Netherlands. Now I want to introduce the second country in this episode, Denmark. Denmark is situated in Northern Europe, and it's part of Scandinavia. Denmark is an archipelago made up of over 100 islands, some of which are not even inhabited. But when you take an aerial view look at the country, it is so beautiful, like it's unbelievable. Even if some of these islands aren't inhabited, it still doesn't take away from the natural beauty of them. But also, I think, just the beauty and the environment there really breeds a very happy culture, because Denmark is actually seen as one of the happiest countries on the planet. And as a matter of fact, it is reported as the happiest country on the planet. I mean, I've never been, and it looks great though, but if you are from Denmark, let me know how true that is below in the comment section. Now, the population of Denmark is a lot smaller than the Netherlands at 5,757,732 people. And its population density is 136 people per square kilometer. And Denmark's total land area is 42,430 square kilometers. Its capital city is Copenhagen. Now let's take a look at the currencies and finances of these countries. In the Netherlands, what currency do they use? Well, like many European countries, it uses the euro, and currently at the time of filming this, 1 euro is equal to 1.17 US dollars. In Denmark though, they use the Danish krone, and 1 Danish krone equals 0.16 US dollars. Now I want to dive a little deeper into the economies. The Netherlands is the 8th largest export economy in the entire world. And this is because the Netherlands has discovered huge natural gas resources, and this was back in the late 1950s. The sale of natural gas generated a lot of revenue for Netherlands for decades after that. And this added hundreds of euros to the government's budget. So the Netherlands had a very prosperous as well as an open economy, and it depended a lot on foreign trade. The economy is very praised for its stability in terms of the low unemployment rate as well as inflation. The total GDP of the Netherlands is $777 billion, and the GDP per capita is $50.5 thousand. When we look at the total exports for the Netherlands, that number is $413 billion US, and the Netherlands' top exports were refined petroleum, computer parts, as well as packaged medicaments. Looking at the imports, that number is higher actually at $428 billion US, and Netherlands' top imports were refined petroleum, crude petroleum, as well as computers. Alright, now let's dive a little further into the economy of Denmark. Denmark is considered to be one of the most economically and socially developed countries on the planet. So this country, it ranks as having the world's highest social mobility and a high level of income equality. Now check this, the economy is so on point in Denmark that it has one of the world's highest per capita incomes for any country. Denmark also has one of the world's highest personal income tax rates. So the GDP of Denmark is $306 billion, and that leaves its GDP per capita at $49.7 thousand. The total exports from Denmark were $84.1 billion, and its top exports were packaged medicaments, pig meat, and human or animal blood. Its imports dollars were around the same at $84.6 billion US, and its top imports were cars, packaged medicaments, and refined petroleum. So that was a look at the economy of both of these countries. So now let's take a look at the military and see how they compare when stacked up against each other side by side. The Netherlands ranks 36 in the world in terms of total military power, and the Netherlands Armed Forces consists of the Army as well as the Navy and the Air Force, and the service branches that make up the military are the Royal Netherlands Army, the Royal Netherlands Navy and Marine Corps, the Royal Netherlands Air Force, as well as the Royal Military Constabulary. The total available manpower in the Netherlands is 7,800,000 people, and it has 42,705 active personnel and 10,500 reserve personnel. Now, Denmark's military ranks 54th in the world in terms of total military power, and its service branches are the Royal Danish Army, the Royal Danish Navy, the Royal Danish Air Force, as well as the Danish Home Guard. Denmark has a total available manpower of 2,500,000 people, and its active personnel sits at 20,800, and they have 54,350 reserve personnel. When it comes to the total army strength, the Netherlands has 0 combat tanks, they have 979 armored fighting vehicles, but they don't have any rocket projectors or any towed artillery. But they do, however, have 18 self-propelled artillery. Denmark has 57 combat tanks, 673 armored fighting vehicles. They don't have any rocket projectors or any towed artillery, but they do have 12 self-propelled artillery. When comparing the air power of both of these nations, the Netherlands has 61 fighter aircrafts, also 61 attack aircrafts. Their transport aircrafts sit at a total of 51, and their trainer aircrafts are at 23. Their total helicopters are at 75, and they have 28 attack helicopters. Now let's see how Denmark's air power compares. In their possession, the Danish military have 33 fighter aircrafts as well as 33 attack aircrafts. They have a total of 39 transport aircrafts, and their trainer aircraft sit at a total of 38. Their helicopter count sits at 35, and they don't have any attack helicopters though. Now when we compare the navies, we see that the total naval assets for the Netherlands is at 56. The Netherlands also has 4 patrol crafts. They don't have any aircraft carriers or any corvettes, but they do have 2 frigates, 4 destroyers, 4 submarines, and 6 mine warfare vessels. Denmark's navy has a total of 90 naval assets. They have 8 patrol crafts, 9 frigates, and 7 mine warfare vessels, but their navy contains no aircraft carriers, no destroyers, or no submarines. And as you could imagine, funding a military costs a lot of money. The Netherlands' defense budget sits at a whopping $9,840 billion. And Denmark's defense budget is just under half of that at $4,440 billion. Okay, so now we looked at the military, but if you were gonna go and travel to both of these countries, assuming that you're not from any of these countries, which country would be cheaper to live in and which country would be the most expensive. Let's take a look at that. So when you take a look at the cost of living in the Netherlands and compare it to Denmark, we see that in the Netherlands, food is 18% less expensive in the Netherlands than in Denmark, and housing is 8% cheaper. Clothing is 17% less expensive in the Netherlands, but you'll be paying 7% more in terms of transportation, but you get to save a lot when it comes to personal care. That's at 22% less expensive in the Netherlands, as well as entertainment is 8% less. So on average, the cost of living in the Netherlands is 8% cheaper than in Denmark. Now, the national debts for the Netherlands sits at $5.19 billion, and that brings its debt per citizen at $30,711. With Denmark, the debt is way less at $125 billion, and its debt per citizen is $22,090.